Just wanted to say thank you for everyone who has come to the channel. I have said many times, and I'll continue to reiterate it, what makes this channel great is not me. It is the people who come here and conduct the polite, intelligent, thoughtful, informed conversation down in the comments section. To get to the bottom of something like this, when we know we can't trust the media, and we apparently can't trust the Navy to give us the truth on this, it's going to take us, coming to the channel and bringing in all sorts of different perspectives and experience levels and knowledge to get to the bottom of this. Now, I don't think there's ever going to be a smoking gun. I have to agree with a lot of folks that way, but I think if we can get away from this idea of looking for, the smoking gun, the single thing that's going to be without a doubt. I mean, short of somebody producing a satellite video live feed of the accident as it happened, or the collision, I should say, as it happened, there's really going to always be a hole that somebody's going to say, well, what about this? What about that? And we can't let that deter us. We can't let that say, well, because we're never really going to know for sure, to just give up on it. So that's not going to happen. Now, one thing that has been brought up by some folks, and I just wanted to cover it, they're saying that this here is a trick of perspective, and that it might be photoshopped, or that this actually might even be just a fender on the dock that is protecting the crystal from running into the pier. I think that's actually the trick of the eye, to make it look like it's a fender because of the shadow line here. And the reason I say that is because of this picture. I think that pretty much puts all that to rest about the photoshopping or perspective, because that's just the opposite side of that. Now, this video is going to be a lot about pictures and a lot about this cargo ship. And I would like to say thank you to some contributors who came and provided some links to a couple of different things. We're going to go to an article here in a minute called Nose Jobs for Ships that I think is going to shed some new light on this. But before I forget, I don't want to let things go unthanked. Zeke Duff, USN for America, Disco Bear, and there was one more, David Perrin. All great links, fantastic pictures. Here's a really great one that shows, the port side and what it looked like before the collision, and this bow. This is clearly unloaded lightly because it's way up in the water. But one thing that you can see here, and I think that's very, very important, is the distance from where the black paint starts to where the top of the bow, this bulbous bow, is. And what we can use as a perspective for an actual distance of it is, we can take up, the size of this right here, or we could even look at, the size of this anchor, how much distance of this anchor. And then when we look at another picture, like, let's say this one, see how much more red is showing here? Look at the difference. Look how much red is here. Now let's go back to here. So clearly, if this was on the night of the collision, and this is after the collision, look at the difference. I mean, you can see that the anchor is a static distance. It's a static size. And you can see here the distance from the top of this is almost the size of the anchor. If you take the anchor from here to here, it would fit from there. But when you look at this other picture, that's not the case. Not even close. So clearly this is missing. This is something where this ship clearly has another smaller little stubby bow underneath this thing. And I think that's the perspective key that we're missing here. Now, this Nose Jobs article shows this, because this is what I think, this deeply submerged ram, this is what I think the crystal looks like now. But this one is what I think the night of the accident it looked like, and this entire piece sheared off with that collision. You know, it hit it, it stuck in the Fitzgerald kept moving, and that's why you had that huge offset. Because it's, you know, it stayed in and it literally bent it and ripped it right off, and it had bent a good portion of that bulbous bow out before finally coming into contact with the superstructure. But even at that, you know, looking at, here's the Fitz after the accident. We've seen this picture before, and here's a picture that was contributed of the Fitz. Now, I find it strange that there's no domes up here. None of the electronic domes are on the ship, so it must have been maybe just a shakedown cruise before the electronics were put on it. I don't know. Maybe somebody can help me out why that picture would look like this, because it's DDG 62. You can see here, same ship, and there. It just still looks to me like, when you look at this damage right here, that's just awful low for the railing of that cargo ship. I mean, look how close this is to the water line. And the highest point of damage is right here. I could see it maybe bumping that rail, but to bend that rail completely backward over the deck, that cargo ship had to have been running really low in the water, like showing no red at all. And when we saw that, after the accident, we saw a lot of the red showing from a lot of those pictures. So there's definitely a lot more going on here than what is being revealed. And if the channel has achieved one thing, and you can thank yourselves for that, is that we have kept this in the forefront for 2 months. We have kept it alive, and people are still talking about it, people are thinking about it, and it's not going to go away because there's just too many unanswered questions. The idea that this could have been just some misfortunate accident is just beyond anybody's ability to believe now. Even the worst skeptics that came to the channel initially are now starting to relent. And they're falling back to, well, you're never really going to know, you can't trust the government, you know, because their arguments have fallen apart. Because so many things have been pointed out that are completely inconsistent. And, you know, here was another picture. It's the other side, but it's definitely not this. And here's that damage. I mean, look how badly bent over that rail is. You know, the gray stuff on the side, oh, okay, you know, fine. It's, you know, it transferred some paint. But this, where did that occur? In this damage? What about this ship? If you look at this ship right here, this is what it would have looked like right before the collision. What part of this ship bent that railing over? And how low would it have been? And I'm going to show you this again one more time. If you see the distance of the red paint here to the top of the bow to here, and we look at this here, you can see it here as well. Look how tiny this is. And you can see it here, look how much smaller this is. So, if that's not something that, of all of the things that they provided us that night, or that next morning I should say, information about the accident, the idea that he provided the location of where all of the sailors were sleeping and the machinery room, and you know, and it was in his statement that they only had one screw working, and they had all this, that it ripped the bulbous bow off of the container ship. I mean, that would have been something to maybe mention, and nobody has said a word about it, because that's the only way this works. You know, that this makes any sense, that, you know, this giant, when he talks about the protruding bulbous bow, when I initially saw it and I saw that, I'm like, that doesn't protrude. That's not even, you know, out in front of the ship here. But we look at this, and that does. So anyway, we're going to keep going. Once again, guys, thank you so much. You know, even those that have taken issue with my statements, you're welcome here as long as everything stays, you know, cordial and civil and above board. And most of the people who are now taking issue with some things they're saying are being polite. And that's why this channel, you're never going to hear about it on Patreon or Steam It or any of that nonsense. All those places are meetings of the Mutual Admiration Society. Because when people have to pay to see your videos, the only people who are going to pay to see your videos are the people that always agree with you. And I never want this channel to be that. I want people to come here and be able to say whatever they want to an extent, as long as it's polite. If you want to disagree, perfectly welcome. In fact, some of the best contributions that we've had have been people that have taken issue with some things that I've said. So I will leave that there, 11 minutes. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you.